Well, firstly, welcome, Michel. Good to have
Thanks.
you here. Thanks for taking time out to join us in a busy schedule. And I'm sure there are myself, but many in the audience would love to hear your views as a leader of a European business. We know you've just kind of come from and what you're involved in. So it'd be really great to hear some opening remarks.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm happy that announced that we had a royal visitor today. So His Royal Highness the Duke of York visited us this morning, so that's why I feel a little bit overdressed here, but that's because of that. I think, it's very rewarding to be here a day like today. I think you have the technology entrepreneurs here, you have the ecosystem and all the people involved that can make that a success. I think that what you will see and hear from these technology startups actually represent, I think, the future of the future success of our sector in that respect. And if you think about the recent government data that's been announced, that in the sector itself there are 1.3 million people working. And if you then drill in it a little bit, 95% of the 12,000 enterprises in that sector employ less than 10 employees. So I think it's a fair thing to say that the future of our economy will be built on a nation of startups.
Of course.
So it's great to witness that here today, and of course, provide all the support that these startups need to succeed.
Okay. And you were just talking really about the importance of this sector. What do you think's critical to the future success of the sector?
Yeah, well, I think we just need more.
Right.
Very simple. So I think more ideas turned into businesses. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's very relevant for where we are today, but also where we are heading from the future. And like I said, what you see today is really representing that direction we're taking. And at the same time, I think that we are at a stage where we need to think about entrepreneurship in our culture. And I think the Minister of Education mentioned about the habits that entrepreneurs have that has to go back into, let's say, our culture in schooling, but all in general. And I think that if you look at the history of the UK, then the UK has been punching above the weight for a long time, the 6th economy of the world. It's the 4 out of 6 top university of the world, number 5 on the patents that are being used. So that's a great historical view, and I think so the UK has been known for innovation and great ideas. At the same time, I think we're at a point of potential crisis, I have to say. So I don't want to spoil the day, but I think we are. I think if you think about, let's say, the fact that what I would call the crisis of innovation. So I think we don't have enough people that really understand the engine of what, let's say, innovation means in the 21st century. And that's based on computer science. So I think if you look at the UK in the last 6 years, the number of computer science graduates has halved. And last year it was 7,634 graduates in computer science. Now, and I mentioned about the fact that I lived and worked in China for 3 years. Of course, we do a lot of hiring there, both on the research side and of course also on the other parts. And I think the level of quality, but the quantity of computers, it's just amazing. And if you compare those numbers that have been put out there by one city compared to what the UK is representing, I think that's I think a potential crisis if you think about the future of the country. And of course, if you look at Poland, they are providing 40,000 computer sciences or graduates a year. So I think that we need to really step up to be sure that we look at the broader picture about how we want to be more, more innovators, more have an entrepreneurial spirit, and at the same time we need to go back to the engine of, computer science and do much more there.
Interesting. So you're talking there about a crisis of innovation. It would be interesting, I think, for all of us to understand what's Microsoft doing to make a difference and to address some of that and to fill some of the gap.
Yeah. Well, I think a good example is what we have here today. But I think you need to start probably at the beginning of, let's say, the people that are starting in school. So we designed a software program language called Kodu. It's a visual, let's say, software program language, and that's targeted at children between 7 and 14, and it really helps them to really code things in games. So it's very simple, and it's very, like I said, visual. I can do it, so that's pretty, that's pretty easy. And the good thing is that what you see is that we do a big, let's say, contest with these kids, and You know, there were 3 kids of Wales won the contest, 3 girls actually, and they never in their life had anything to do with computer science or coding, but they just got it and they won the contest. So I think that's the start point, how you want to excite people about thinking a career in computer science, which is not about math, or difficult or be geeky like Bill Gates was. This is about just having a very great career on what you can do there. So that's one thing we do. Second thing is that we work with the industry and the government to be sure that the computer science curriculum is is going to happen next year if people go into school. And this is not an ICT curriculum, but a computer science curriculum. The other thing we do is that we have roughly 30,000 partners in the UK. Big partners, but of course a lot of small partners. So we invest a lot of time and money to really get them into the technology of today, and to be sure that they can prosper based on that knowledge that was out there. Another thing we're doing, and stop me if I talk too long, because we have a lot of stuff we do here, but we do, for instance, a program which Get On, which is about people that are in, let's say, a sector where they are not employed, educated, or trained. So we are having a bold goal to get 300,000 people inspired to work in IT. We get them trained into IT, and then we try to get a job for them in IT. That's based on a pretty big apprenticeship program we have. So I think those are some of the examples. I think it's good, but we need to do more. But I think collectively we need to do more to be sure that this is on the radar, and that the crisis not really becomes a crisis, but an opportunity.
Very good. So there we were talking about change, really, a number of areas where Microsoft is seeing change, where Microsoft itself is changing. During your career, and you've worked in different environments and formats within Microsoft, but you must have seen significant changes in some of the challenges that Microsoft has had to respond to in the last 10 years. And I guess what would be interesting is really where you see Microsoft was maybe 5 years ago to where it is now. I'm sure that would be interesting for all of us to hear that view.
Yeah, so I think, well, let's first start with the market, because that actually determines where the things are going. So if I would reflect on the time I was in China, which was a different market, of course, and a different level of maturity in relation to IT. Then the last year and a half in the UK, I would say that never in my career, industries are going through a profound change. And every industry in the UK is going through a change. So it's not one, let's say the gas companies, because of regulation, every industry in the UK is going through a change. And what's different compared to 5 years ago is that there is no option to opt out of this change. Well, you can opt out, but then you're out. So I think the level of change and the pressure that's happening in the UK and in China and other places, how do companies really transform? So that's a massive kind of market change that's happening. If you then look at the big technology drivers, and of course it's cloud. Cloud is happening as we speak today, big time, not only on the enabling of the front end, but also the back end. If you think about our Azure, think about Office 365. You think about mobile, that's happening, and mobile is not having a phone, but really people working in very different ways than they used to do, being close to the customer or where they need to be. I think big data is a big technology trend that's happening, of course. And the last one that I mentioned is social, enterprise social. So you have market change, you have big technology changes, and then you have Microsoft. And we have been, I would say, almost reinventing ourselves in the last years to really be a player and a provider of solutions to that market that's changing based on all the technology changes that are happening at the same time. And with that, we came up with the strategy to be a devices and services company. And services not in the traditional services that you know, but services means that all our software, all our solutions are cloud enabled. Public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, but it's cloud enabled. And devices is all about that everybody in this room, I would say in a year from now, we don't have the discussion anymore what kind of phone you use, what kind of tablet you use, what kind of PC you use, what kind of whatever. It's more, which 2 devices do I want to use to have fun and make my work meaningful? And I think that's the direction we have taken. That's the reason why we acquired a company like Nokia, because they are good in making those devices. That's why I think you see the change happening. That's, I think, also a reason why we are having a new CEO coming on board soon to make that happen, because the change needs to happen in many fronts. So yes, we have the challenges and the opportunities, but I think if you look at where we are from a business perspective, and specifically in the UK, I would say that people looking for really high impact value experiences. And if I can give an example as the consumer, I like music. So I have Xbox Music, right? So normally that in the old days it was on one device and then it was all contained on one device. Today I have Xbox Music on any device I use. I have it on my phone.
Right.
And last week I turned on my Xbox One and I sign in with my, my Hotmail account, and then Xbox Music is there as well. For me, those are high impact experience from a consumer, that they have access to all their music based from a cloud enablement. And there are much more of those scenarios. So I think that the notion of how devices and services are coming together, where the device is a piece of hardware, the service is a piece of cloud-enabled software, that's the direction we're taking. And I think that's a great, I would say, opportunity, because the customers that are changing, they are looking for ways how they can enable their people to really make the transformation happen.
And you talked as well about, you've already talked a little bit about your own journey in leadership and the different environments, UK, Netherlands, China. Be interesting, I think, just to, if there's maybe one or two examples you can talk about how leadership is different within those different markets, the fast developing markets like China versus the more established, mature markets like the UK.
Well, I mean, whatever business you're in, I think if you go to China and you have an opportunity to lead China, then it's really coming into a Chinese culture, which is a big learning opportunity. And I'm Dutch from origin, so I do know that the Dutch style doesn't fit the Chinese style. So it starts with self-awareness. And it starts, of course, with learning that culture and really get a sense about, how people. But then you come to the UK, and even you could say, hey, Netherlands, UK is very close. It's different. Right? Different culture, different way of how things are being done. Yeah. So I think that's something that you really need to learn. But at the same time, I think that if you want to lead an organization in this day and age, I think there are a few things that are important from an internal perspective. First of all, I think the level of trust needs to be there, because people are facing much more change and ambiguity. And ambiguity and change are here to stay. So I think trust is an important element there. The second is transparency. So do people understand why decisions are being made? And the third thing is clearly to say, how do you want to continue to connect with people in different forms and ways? And one of the examples is clearly that we have a great company that we acquired a year and a half ago called Yammer. And enterprise social is just taking off, not only Microsoft, but across the UK. Based on the fact that people want to have a different way to connect and communicate. And what I see is that if I have a formal all-hands meeting and we have a Q&A, you're getting all the polite questions, right? They're very polite, and what do you think about it? So nothing provocative, if you will. If I ask that same question on Yammer, you're getting the real answers and the real questions, by the way. And there's much more openness. So I think that you need to be sure that from a leadership perspective, and regardless of Chinese or British or any nation, you have to peel off the cultural elements, and then what you get is a human being. And human beings likes to be challenged, they like to be rewarded, and likes to be respected. And I think if you have that in mind, then I think things go the right way.
Very good, very, very candid, and I think it's symptomatic of the program that we've seen here. Speaking as a mentor, that Microsoft has become, it's kind of like reinventing itself. Like even as part of this ventures program, something very, very different from Microsoft. It's very open, it's very humble, it's a very friendly, accessible thing to be involved in. I've certainly enjoyed being part of it. And I think one of the things I've noticed is that there's a friendly accountability, which I think is really helpful from the team. It's a very practical, measured program, and it's really surprised me how well thought out, considered it's been. And I'm sure all the teams who've been part of the program have really enjoyed it, got a huge benefit. But that's just a few words from me as being part of the program, and I've really enjoyed it. Yeah. But Michel, you may have some closing comments you might like to add?
I think that we're all very eager to wait for the pitches, so I think that's of course where we're all here, so I'm really looking forward to that. And I think with the Accelerate program, I think we really are trying to get back to our entrepreneurial roots that we had as a company, so I think that's a good combination, so we're looking forward to the pitches.
Very good. Thank you, Michel.
Thank you.
Great.